Girl Kamisha Tyler, aka Sarathea I Am. And on this feed, I want to address ailments. What's meant by that? Okay. The word is ailments. Okay. Now, here's what they're operating. And I'm not sure yet if I want to say of a spiritual aspect or from a spiritual guiding, but it's prevalent that it is an energy operating. Okay. Deciphering whether that energy is guided of a negative charge or a positive charge is where they want, or it's been kept cloudy. Okay. So here's what I'm speaking about. There is a deity. Some can say demigod, some can say God, some can say, I guess they use demiurge or whatever, all these different terms. But it's known as when you see El Shaddai. Okay. Now here's how it's being manipulated and used by the people, perhaps operating out of spirituality. So El Shaddai are those who looks through the lens of right and wrong. Okay. So what I mean by that is, in a scenario of dealing with racism, they don't touch on those levels because in their mind, the higher focal point is right or wrong. Here's an example of what they would deal with. You're seeing a lot about this Shannon Sharp case come up. So in that sense, it's dealing with perhaps pedophilia, right? And then because it's already a distortment of righteous or rightful living, the taking on of the stance of correcting right from wrong can become distorted as well. What do I mean by that? I mean by, in the Shannon Sharp case, because society, white supremacy has said that 18 is a standardized age of adulthood. White supremacy and satanic worship have even used the age of 15 to say that that is an acceptable age of adulthood. So in doing right from wrong, or navigating right from wrong, in the servitude of El Shaddai, the word is El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El Shaddai, El should die. Okay? Now there's been this controversy on El, the E-L that is in front of Shaddai, spelled S-H-A-D-D-A-I, where they're going back and forth on does it mean God, right? But the word is El, and that is A-I-L, but it's written in E-L-S-H-A-D-D-A-I to hide the work of the people who are surrounded in the energy to either correct the distortment or further the distortment from a place of ignorance. Okay? Now here's why I say that. Because what is being shown is that these people, like I said, they don't concern themselves with things like racism, or the surface or upfront issue. It's almost like a one-track mind of, well, this happened, we're going to correct it, period, point blank. And they do not see themselves to recognize when they're also in the energy of the what's the word? The perpetrator who committed the imbalance. Because what they do is take on the easiest target, right? The same thing that the pedophile or the perpetrator has done himself, going after a child, because the developmental faculties have not reached the stage of maturity, right? To gauge the scenario or the circumstance or the situation that they're being put in by someone who's had time over them to do so. Okay? So they too, trying to destroy the enemy or destroy the energy, find themselves in the energy. Okay? And here's why I say this. Because in their mindset, the ailment is just the ailment. Right? That makes them include further victimizing the receiver, or I don't really like using, or the victim of the ail. So here's what I'm saying. All they know is that some wrong was done in this scenario of the older man or woman violating the younger male or woman, male or female. Now, if the result of that produces a child, those who are claiming worship to El Shaddai will target the child and therefore also the mother, in my case. Okay, but the widespread of it is, or the father, in unaliving the child, trying to handle or correct an ail, A-I-L. Okay, so I just had to spiritually pick up on this the other day. And as I watched and listened spiritually, or discerning what was taking place, I noticed that while they were present, the racists became even more racist. I mean, they was outside screaming, nigger, 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 with the hard R. Because they recognized that there was an power that was also here that wouldn't have responded to the surface level issue, or what they consider was a surface level issue of racism. And the way that they were saying it, the racists were saying the word nigger, was almost like trying to taunt my situation and looking at me as though I'm the issue because of how I was taken advantage of in my youth. But it all makes a circle, 360 circle, because what they fail to do is deal with the fact that in white supremacy, satanic worship, the setup still belongs to white supremacist satanic worship. Right? I know they're trying to take their hands off of it and say, oh, this ain't our doing, like they do with the racism. The white supremacy that built this institution. Right? So it's almost like them trying to taunt, knowing that this energy being unguided in its proper route, right? Because when you just looking at the L on all that was involved, or all who are involved, or the results of it having had happened, then the children become the target. The victim becomes the target. And if the perpetrator hides himself well enough, that they do not take the time to seek them out. They just figure or calculate, well, because I see these ones, if I get rid of these ones, then the stain of pedophilia in America that is allowed and is allowing to be done if you have enough money. Hell, if you don't have money, but you can hide very well. It's allowed to happen. But they would try to cover it up in getting rid of the result of white America, satanic worship, allowing that to happen. Because the culture of satanic worship, or these satans, is molestation, sexual violation. Again, I'm telling you from experience, right? These are the people who made sure they inserted themselves into my life. These are the people who made sure that they wreaked all kind of havoc on my son's life because he would not involve himself with them, right? So they reared up some other kind of calamity to dangle over his head. Now, when you're trying to operate in a spiritual level, or at a spiritual level, serving a God that you do not know, being deceived by Satan, who knows that it is written that God has said that he is the Word, and you do not know how to break down the Word, then you've just made yourself like white supremacy, killing folks, killing the innocent in the name of so-called God. Your God that you serve, when they say El Shaddai and they spell it in a way of optical illusion or delusion, then you spiritually have to be guided into what really going on. Okay? So this is what Satan uses also. It's known as El Shaddai. So he's saying that this ailment that I receive or that I'm feeling from the people either exposing me, either from my being shunned of God, either from this black person's melanin in my midst, they say it should die. It should die. It should die. Okay? This is how you're cursing yourselves as well. This is how they're pulling the wool over your head, making you think you're doing the righteous work of God, or your ancestry, righteousness or spirituality. You've been given in the Roman, Greek, and all these white languages words to curse yourself. Alright? So you have to rightly divide the word of God. So I decided to make this because I see I have been given discernment and spiritually guided on what was happening outside my door the other day. Right? And there are all different tactics of trying to get you in their grasp. And part of that is making you trying to make you believe that you are a part of this court system of the leprous. And whether they made it up or not, they understood that they have deceived. Satan has deceived on a level of deep matters, right? And to see how racist white America and the leprous and the mentally minded, it's almost like they clap their hands when it shows up, because that's what that display of buffoonery was, of them pulling up on my children, me and my children, and then in the background you hear white folks yell out nigger, nigger, nigger. You know, so I'm just here to let whoever this is in this energy, this is the energy what they're calling crazy. Okay? And it's called crazy because they act as though there is no level of reasoning. Right? They're out just destroying the child, or anyone who has involved themselves in this energy of pedophilia, in this energy of perpetrating or molestation. Now, the part I because God keeps us covered to a sense, keeps us covered on the level. What I couldn't discern is if these were also people who have received some kind of molestation in their lives, which is the fuel of what pushes them to continue, or if these were people who involved themselves or were the perpetrator of it, and the fuel pushing them to continue on that route is the fact of trying to cover themselves, trying to cover their nakedness. But like I said, God, in these times, God is revealing it all. So with all this talk of Shannon Sharp being on here and Tracy Ellis Ross being on here, we know what the target is, right? And I'm gonna tell you, you need to stop coming around me and mine, because I don't date younger people. Not now, not never. Do you hear me? As you know, and I'm talking on the level of this energy of pedophilia, and you borderline in molesting and raping folks in their youth. Okay, so my children are to pay for that. I'm not to pay for that. You want to be in the energy of trying to fix an ailment that was been put on us by white supremacy and satanic worship, then you need to deal with white supremacy, satanic worship, and the perpetrator. But again, you've been given my standpoint spiritually on that, and I better not lose another child under this buffoonery of you trying to correct a scenario or a situation, all while you give them covering to act out their supremacist white supremacy sickness, their leprous sickness, because all they're going to do is try to flip the scenario back onto you, right? And they were black folk, right? These are black folks. You understand we can rearrange in all levels of this sickness that's here, spreading upon the earth, right? Your desire or the depth of you wanting to do the right thing can end up being your detriment. Right? You might want to learn the subtleties of this enemy. Right? You have to move from a place of being able to hear and to be able to see and to discern spiritual things. Because everything that people are calling spiritual isn't spiritual. It's man-made. And that could even be the resentment of your own experience with pedophilia or molestation or sexual violating. And if they've done it to you young enough, it's going to be hard to decipher. Timing. Again, I know that it happens at a very young age. With the grace of God, I have the memory of a lot of things that took place. Right? But He's kept me enough. I've been kept enough to where it's not taking me on down a spiraling path of being unable to function. Right? Function enough in clarity to be able to speak against these things. And it does neither you nor me any good if you coming around me and my children, taking them off the face of the earth, because now you're just pulling me further to a place of unfunctionality. Right? The place of being crazy right along with you. You don't get to determine my love for my children whom I birthed and cared for and loved under the circumstances of how they arrived. That's not my fault. That's not on me. And I know how the world does try to blame the victim. Like I said before, I didn't dress in provocative clothing, so that route's not going to work. I was too shy. So that route of, oh, she was provocative and all this stuff, that's not going to work. I set myself on a level to be with one person and one person only, having only that one person's children. But because white supremacy, satanic worship, had a different agenda for my life and the image that it wanted to put out over my melanin, then you got people willing to do anything for the dollar, making grave mistakes and scapegoating the victim or scapegoating a black woman. You just have to know the enemy that you slept with, and if that's their culture, that's their culture. You just got played. They're going to try to do anything for the dollar as well. And it's not my position to say whether the Shannon Sharp case is legit, and you put me in a scenario or a situation of blaming the victim. All I can do is tell you the history, and you have to use your discernment on what you've opened the door to in your life, or what you have been deceived to believe something was, whether that's within yourself or this partner you getting choked up over. Right? So on that note, I hope you all enjoy your day, and I'll talk to you soon.